I made a video pretty recently that showed that the stone constructs of the Northeast are way older than any colonial agricultural practices. And so now we get to the really interesting stuff, and that's how old are these things and what's the story behind them? Because I've found now 22 separate megasites with 40 or more of these stone constructs. And you know what? They're all on hilltops. And all these hilltops, way back, these hilltops, they used to be islands. If you've been following my videos now for some years, I've been making them for 6 years, you'll know that way back I started to understand that there were connections between all the different stone sites that I found. And one of the first repetitions that I started to see was in elevation. And it was that it seemed curious that all of these structures were on this about the same level, or at least above a certain level. And I started realizing I never found these things below a certain elevation above sea level. And that elevation was about 220 meters. There's stuff just above it, never below. And it wasn't long before I started putting that together with this ancient Champlain Sea that, I'd learned about in school. Maybe some of you did as well. But it was a great sea that covered this whole area of Western Quebec, went all the way to northern Vermont, northern New York, and it covered a huge area. Ottawa, Montreal were submerged, and it went all the way out to the Atlantic Ocean. And so I started thinking, well, that seashore, that ancient shoreline, was at about the same topographical level, at about the same distance above sea level, about 220, 230 meters. And so it was very interesting. I'm up to 23 of these mega complexes I've found with many stone structures, and they're all above 220 meters. And so I couldn't help but thinking that there's some connection to that ancient shoreline and the Champlain Sea. The implications are pretty incredible because that existed 12,000 years ago, up until, for a few thousand years, it was created with the glacial melt. And so to find these having any sort of relation to that antiquity has some pretty crazy implications. But also, it sort of follows that all the ones we found, all the ones we know of before I started finding these here in Western Quebec, they were all basically on the Atlantic shoreline. They're all through New England, with the highest density being on, close to the shore, and then they disperse out and become less and less as you move inland. Have a look at this. This is where the islands come in. Here, which is West Quebec, and here are all the sites I've found. So this is in about a 10-kilometer radius, 5 or 6 mile radius, and you'll notice that all of my sites are above the water. Not only are they very connected to the Champlain Sea, you could argue they are shorelines, shoreline cultures, seafaring cultures, but they are definitely all above water, none of them underwater, which I find to be quite fascinating. You can see how if these people were living this close to the sea, they would be fishermen and women and people, and they would probably be seafaring people, which it's not a stretch to imagine them being stargazing people and have a sense of advanced astronomy. Now, I want to show you something quite fascinating here. Let's fade away the sea for a moment. I have another simulation here that's modeled at 230 to 240 meters of above sea level for the Champlain Sea. And if we fade that in here, we see that not only is this area close to the shore, but it's in fact an archipelago. It's basically in the Champlain Sea here, and you'll notice again that all of these sites are on islands, except for this one here. But again, if this was modeled at 210 meters, this would be on land as well. So you start to see this kind of strategic seafaring island culture of people. You know, they're never too far away from the shore, but they populate all of these islands in this area, none of them below, which in modern times, it's, we're looking at, you know, the villages are in the lowlands, which would be underwater now, in the flatter areas. That's where the old homesteads are, the farming and all of that. That would be underwater here. No one's building their villages up on the hills at, you know, 260 meters, 300 meters, way up in the hills. You just don't farm up there. And yet you see all of these sites way up there, and I think that is just pretty cool to see that fade in and fade out. And so it is my goal to keep on mapping the shores of the Champlain Sea and predicting where they may be. They're going to be close to water, so they could go all the way up here, but they basically, from what we've seen here, they surround the shores. They're always above 210 to 230 meters. Now, so if anyone is living in this area, the South Shore, Eastern Townships, at that elevation, you know, above 210 meters, please reach out. Please share this. Please like this. And reach out and tell me if you found anything in upstate New York, anywhere around the Glacial Lakes, Hancock, Glacial Lake, Champlain, or anywhere around here, of course. This would be more southern Ontario. This is up in western Quebec. But have a look, and if we can populate this whole area with ancient stone sites, then we have a pretty good case for these people being not only seafaring people, but to have existed upwards to 10 to 12,000 years ago. So yeah, I don't know what to say about the implications. These are very, very old, it seems, if there's any connection, and it makes them that much more interesting. If there's a seashore connection, whether it's up through New England or all the way through that ancient Champlain Sea shoreline, you know, then it's not a great stretch to imagine that these people were seafaring people. And, you know, from seafaring people, it's not a great stretch to imagine that they would navigate by the stars, and so that they had some sort of astronomical knowledge. And from that, it's not a great stretch to see that these constructs, I mean, they are illogical. Believe me, there is no modern logical or practical interpretation for these sculptures. But it would follow that these structures themselves have some sort of connection to the astral bodies. I mean, all of the ancient people all over the world have built megalithic structures, structures in stone, whether they're precision or non-precision. They built them with cardinal points, with some sort of connection to the stars. Globally, ancient populations have done this everywhere. So why not this one? It really seems likely to me that that is the case. And that's pretty big stuff. I'm really excited about that connection, and I'll be exploring it further. So please hit the like and the share if you want to follow me on this journey. I'm going to these islands. Now that I see them, I'm going out to islands where I haven't found them. And you know what? It's happened twice. I visited an island, GPS marked it, headed there on the dirt bike, and lo and behold, I found another site with stone constructs. Still none below the shore. So follow me along for the continued adventures. The more we find, the more that connection is going to be solidified. And actually, in the next video I'm going to make, it's pretty interesting. If they're, you know, if they were seafaring people, well, where did they come from? stick around, join me on my next one. Thanks so much for following, and be safe, everyone. We'll see you soon.